and inside of this country. Baltimore is a horrible, horrible deathbed. It's a deathbed. I know Governor Moore said, oh, he wants to take a walk with me. He meant it in a derogatory tone. I said, no, I'm the president of the United States. Clean up your crime and I'll walk with you. But it's tremendous crime. But he was trying to be derogatory. He doesn't have what it takes. But he's trying to be derogatory. And I met him at the Army-Navy game. They said, oh, there's Governor Moore. He'd love to see you. He came over to me. He hugged me, shook my hand. You were there. He said, sir, you're the greatest president of my lifetime. I said, well, it's really nice that you say that. I'd love you to say it publicly, but I don't think you can do that, so it's okay. But no, sir, you're doing a fantastic job. I want to just shake your hand. Thank you very much, Governor. That was it. And then every time I see him on television, he's knocking the hell out of me. So, but that's all right. That's called politics.
President Trump had referenced about them meeting at the Army-Navy game. And thanks to the art of the surge on Fox Nation, we have the footage.
Mr. President, welcome back to Maryland, sir. Welcome back to Maryland. It's good to see you.
In person, too.
Thank you, sir. Great to see you. Great to see you. And great to have you back here. Great to have you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Well, we are very, very anxious to be able to work closely with you, and I know the Key Bridge is something that we're specifically focused on. It's going well. I mean, we spoke with Speaker Johnson yesterday, and Speaker Johnson says he believes that we're close to the 100% cost share. And the thing is, I told him when we get that 100% cost share done, we are going to be able to open the Key Bridge under your watch, because I will have it done in 28, on time and on budget.
We'll help you out.
Thank you, sir.
We didn't hear their greatest president ever, but we did hear a lot of enthusiasm and so excited to meet you, Mr. President. Who's telling the truth? We'll let you decide.
It was the other guy, not Trump. It was Wes Moore. Yeah, you can tell because of the words that the governor of Maryland used and how they're different from the words that Trump said he used. So, it's pretty simple, actually. Oh, wait, but this is Fox News. So maybe I should unpack this a little more, just in case anyone from Fox News is watching, which I'm sure they are. And hey, welcome. So just so you guys are aware at Fox News, if you look up the definition of lying, you will find very quickly that it is a present participle for the word lie. But if you look up lie in the dictionary and you go down a little bit, you will find that it is a false statement made with the intent to deceive. You know, like a liar. Now, we all know that Donald Trump is the most postmodern president we have ever had, which means by extension that Fox News is the most postmodern news source we currently have. And by postmodern, I mean a school of thought that was really prevalent in the 20th century, which is, generally speaking, rejects grand narratives in favor of things like subjectivity and exploring how ideas like truth and knowledge and even reality itself can often be imagined as essentially constructed through things like language and other sociological pressures or whatever. So that's what it is. And so when you have Fox News going, hey, we'll let you decide who's telling the truth after showing you exactly who's telling the truth, that is A, very postmodern, B, very funny and like a kind of pathetic sort of way. That is C, weaponizing a school of thought that they normally use as a boogeyman, because for them, postmodernism is essentially an empty signifier that they can just deploy for their own rhetorical needs. And then D, kind of a microcosm for how a lot of right-wing media works, unfortunately. But listen, what are they going to do? What are they going to comb through all this data on what crime is actually like in blue cities? No, they're not going to do that. These are postmodernists, y'all. They're going to go off vibes, and the vibes, they're crimey. Those are crimey vibes. So we got to deploy the military against its own citizens, because that's just, rules are rules. All right. But no, it was Wes Moore. Wes Moore was the one telling the truth. Just so we're clear. It was Trump that was lying. Wes Moore was telling the truth, at least in that instance. And I'm not going to let some woke soy boy philosophy major Fox News tell me otherwise. Let's hear what Wes Moore has to say.
I'm a person who believes in my integrity. And I can tell you right now, that imaginary conversation that he revealed from the White House not only did not happen, but unfortunately, it's just a consistent thread and a consistent theme that we are seeing from the president of the United States, which is just a deeply sad state of affairs.
That's just no way to talk about the greatest president in your lifetime, Governor Moore. Okay, which you definitely said or didn't, depending on, I guess, just where. I mean, who's to say what's even real or like not real anymore? Also, though, sad. Would you say this is sad? That's the word you chose. Sad. I don't know that I'd go with sad. I actually wrote some words down. Let's see here. I have unsurprising, hypocritical, pathetic, insulting, deluded. Oh, I did write sad. Oh, awesome. Yeah, I couldn't see it because of the tear stains. But anyway, I think the important thing that Moore is bringing up here is just how consistent a theme this is with Trump. So when he's making up this story about someone flattering him, he's just making up another story that flatters him, which happens to map over very nicely with what's currently going on with Trump and crime in blue states.
I think one of the most interesting things about the graphic you just showed is the highlighted yellow of those states sending their National Guard to D.C., right? I think we've seen this playbook before from the president, and it won't be the last time where he is using this issue as a political one, right? He is trying to make the case that he needs to intervene because Democratic-run cities are out of control in his parlance. And that's clearly not the case backed up by data. There are a whole host of other cities, primarily in Republican-led states, that have higher crime rates, but that's not the focus for this president. We've seen him go after Chicago, LA. This weekend, he was tangling with Governor Wes Moore of Maryland and talking about Baltimore. There is a playbook here that the president is using, and it's mostly driven by his politics. And one of the things just to note about Chicago's crime rate has actually been decreasing and at times has been at pre-pandemic levels. And so this focus on this out of control crime is misplaced based on where the data is. Not to say that there's no crime, but if you really look at the numbers, it is not the sort of picture the president is.
You heard him.
Yeah, it's like he's lying. You could just say that, but I'll leave it up to you. Who's telling the truth? Oh, wait, this isn't Fox News. Yeah, he's lying. Also, why does everybody on CNN have to talk like it is their goal to make everything they have to say as boring and as obtuse as possible? Just talk like a human, And also, he's lying. Now, I hate to Mark Ruffalo any feathers here, but I myself I'm kind of against crime. I know. It's like, oh, here goes another liberal. But I'm actually against crime, whether it's in blue cities or red cities. I'm actually just that much of a bleeding heart that I don't think crime is like a good thing. But what I think is interesting here is the parallel rhetorical goals of both how Trump is treating all of this crime in blue cities and how he's just making up stories about Wes Moore saying he's the greatest president in his lifetime. In both instances, they serve to make Trump look like a bright and shining hero, whether it's a hypocritical and ineffective governor singing his praises, or whether it is crime data that you can just ignore so that he can be presented as like the savior to these cities. In either case, he comes out looking great, okay? And I think it's also important to remember that one of the primary reasons Trump even ran for president to begin with so long ago was because Obama made fun of him. So since then, he's just been like, I'm the best. And so when CNN does this thing where they get on and go, well, I think this is political for him. I think what CNN should do is get a little Fox News on him, by which I mean go postmodern. You know what I mean? Like, what do you mean political? I know what I think political means to me, but what does it mean to Trump? I like to think that political to Trump just means a way of making himself look good. And that's kind of it. And also, I think that, hear me out, I know it's a lot of hot takes. I think that's bad. I really do. But I do wonder if the Democrats will learn from it and adjust their strategy accordingly. Let's find out.
Redistricting, or gerrymandering, as some people know it. You've said you don't like talking about it, but all options are on the table when it comes to your state. There's only one seat here that is actually Republican, and it's a seat held by Representative Andy Harris. Are you considering trying to redraw lines in Maryland?
Yeah, when I say all options are on the table, all options are on the table.
Are you actively looking at it now?
Yeah, because I think we have to. Yes, and I think we have to, because I think what's happened is this is what people hate about politics in the first place: the fact that the president of the United States, very similar to what he did in Georgia, where he called up a series of voter registrants and said, "I need you to find me more votes." We're watching the same thing now, where he's calling up legislatures around the country and saying, "I need you to find me more congressional districts."
He's doing it. That may be different, but Democrats redistrict. You know this.
Yeah.
But Gavin Newsom's doing it right now. A few years ago in New York, we saw this. This can backfire. Do you really want to go down this road?
I want to make sure that we have fair, lines and fair seats, where we don't have situations where politicians are choosing voters, but that voters actually have a chance to choose their elected officials. We need to be able to have fair maps. And we also need to make sure that if the President of the United States is putting his finger on the scale to try to manipulate elections because he knows that his policies cannot win in a ballot box, then it behooves each and every one of us to be able to keep all options on the table to ensure that the voters' voices can actually be heard and we can have maps.
In that one district where they have a Republican representative, that they are actively being represented in Maryland?
I think if you look at maps across the country, less than 10% of congressional seats are actually competitive by nature. Less than 10%. And so if you look at the average win margin in our state and so many states, the average win margin is upwards of 20 to 30%. So that means we already have so many gerrymandered areas that we have to be able to add a measure of fairness in the way that it's applied. And so, yes, all options need to be on the table in the state of Maryland.
I can't speak to what people hate about politics. I can say one of the things I strongly, strongly dislike about the Democratic Party is their tendency to make empty promises that are completely lacking in any sort of action, otherwise known as just politics in general. Now, do I think gerrymandering is good? No. Do I think it's a good idea? Potentially. Do I think it's a good idea in a state that only has one Republican seat? Not really, because I think Republican voters should have someone representing them who aligns with their political interests. I know. It's just hot takes galore. I'm on fire today. All right. Goodness gracious. Do I think Wes Moore is just saying all options are on the table so that he can throw out the idea of redrawing their maps on national television to gain some political points? I sure do. But what do you expect from a guy who thinks that Donald Trump is one of the greatest presidents in his lifetime? Anyway, the sad truth here, and I mean this objectively, is that Trump does not live in reality. Whether it's about what the actual state of crime is or what someone, just said to him or what voters actually want, all that matters is what makes Trump look good. And before you go, oh, this is just more Trump derangement syndrome, let me be very clear. Yeah, it is. Because Trump is, the man's deranged. And that is, well, I'm going to cover this again and say it's bad. When somebody, like, I'm old enough to remember when people said Bush lied, people died. Okay, that was around the time of the Iraq War. But the difference here is that when the Bush administration lied, okay, they did so in a way that painted themselves as cowboys. And when Trump lies, he paints himself in a way that makes himself look like a savior. Okay. And the thing is, when you paint yourself in a way to look like a cowboy, at least that's part and parcel of America's image of itself, right? Like the cowboy, can you think of anything more American? It evokes ideas of like freedom and ruggedness and individuality and very simple binary moralism, like all the things that, for better or worse, are at least American. Okay. And then you have Trump, who paints himself as a savior, who adjusts reality how he sees fit in any way that can make him look like the one person who can save everybody. And the thing is, that's not part of America's image of itself. In fact, it's anti-American. It's anti the genesis of America when we decided we didn't want a king. And it's actually anti the guy that's in that upside down Bible in Trump's hand that he uses so much. And why is this? Because Trump is the most postmodern president of our lifetimes. Okay, he will completely forsake the idea of America, even the myths that undergird America, like Christianity, in order to make himself look better. And when you have someone doing that with that much power, it will have material ramifications that we will be dealing with for decades to come. So no, this isn't just Trump derangement syndrome. It is, but for good reason, because he's out of his mind. All right. It's not pearl clutching. It's power grabbing. And that is bad because it affects people in a very real way. OK, that's at least my take on it. Both the lying is bad, lying bad, crime bad. OK, when you lie in a way that like appeals to the American sensibilities, still bad. Right. I mean, for God's sake, there's not going to be the amount of deaths caused, likely, God willing, by the Trump administration as were caused by the Bush administration. But what Trump is doing is killing the soul of America. Because it's anti-American, it's anti-Christian, and it's anti all the very things that the people who support him claim to be all about. So anyway, this has been another rambling session. Believe it or not, I did have bullet points and it just sort of flies off the handle sometimes. And I apologize for that, but maybe none of that actually happened. And maybe if you felt like that happened, you're wrong and I'm right. And we can just all decide together what's real and what isn't. Actually, and also postmodernism is a really served a very beneficial function and still does to this day. And it is not as popular as it once was, but it is useful for the purposes of deconstruction and to know where these ideas come from so that you can be better aware of what the underlying factors are that make up the maybe I'll make up for rambling by just rambling more. Bye, everybody.